Hello there, my lovelies. We are doing this from on the road today, and I am really going to hope that the mic settings on the vlogging DSLR recording camera is going to capture me well. I'm literally sitting down with you all under a tree today at a playground, kind of community park, outside of where my husband works in Williamsport, Maryland, which is an hour over the mountain from the valley we live in. I took a challenge today. I had two very important things line up in the same weekend that required me to be a full-time teacher and full-time author on the road for a day or so-ish, mindset-wise, and I said, you know, I could cancel one of these two things and possibly upset and hurt the people that I made promises to and cause further anxiety all around, or I can just own it up, figure out a way to make it work, and I did. So, kind of echoing something that Mama Melissa Power of Power Play Press, had said in her Let's Talk About Anxiety video that she did right after the fireside chat that we did together, and I'll put both links in the description box below. I just wanted to add on to this video and preface before I go headlong into the main topic behind it. Thank you to everyone who has been so supportive of me the last year especially. It's not been easy for me, and when I get into the topic of this video, you will definitely understand why a little bit better. And I really hope you're hearing me well over the bugs and the birds as the sun goes down. So, the topic of today's video. You might see me reference my outline. I'm trying to do this as much from the road as possible, and yeah, the topic of the video is how fanfiction saved my life, or how and why I fell in love with writing, and why I will probably always continue to keep writing. Like many of us whom are authors, I had a very rough childhood. A lot of people look at me and see my skin color and automatically see the privilege that comes with it, but I can also attest that I also know what it is like to see the other coin, not to be the other coin. You name it. It happened in my childhood as far as abuse goes, all levels. I don't like to talk about the stuff that was more severe publicly because it is highly embarrassing, and I am a teacher, and work and students kind of know about my channel, so I try not to talk about the details of how horrible things really were physically, psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and more in the house where I grew up. I won't say more than that. You add into the fact that I was bullied severely at school for obvious reasons. I'm fat. Let's just say my goddess-sized physique is not acceptable to most people, and that is something children are programmed to hate first, is a person's size or skin color or hair, you know, the obvious differences, right? And that was when we still lived in Baltimore, and I was actually made fun of for being white. And you're like, Jenna, check your privilege. No, please let me explain. I was the only white person in my whole class for a couple of years. Didn't bug me. I don't care about your skin. I love you for who you are. Your skin just makes you more unique to who you are, and therefore, I don't care about your skin in a negative way. Your skin, you like it? Fine, I like it too. I don't like my skin because it causes me eczema, right? Is often what I say. So, join the boat if you're with me there at least. But I don't believe in racism. Prejudices, most of them are learned. Somebody at home, somebody at school taught you that, and you can be untaught that. But I was literally, I had a knife pulled on me in the first grade because I was told, you're white, therefore you deserve to die. That was my first encounter with realizing this problem is greater than my neighborhood. Then in 1995, we moved from downtown Baltimore, like you could walk to Inner Harbor from my house and be there in 15 minutes or so. Then we moved, 2.5 hours west into the mountains of Cumberland and the valley where it's very rural, very, very white. Like, I don't mean to be racist in saying this, but I was concerned. Like, I thought segregation was still a thing here because my first day of school in Cumberland, it was the complete opposite of the schools I went to literally the week before because we moved in October. I had a little bit of culture shock, and I only moved a couple hours away, and that never left me, because I was ostracized at my new school and did not make friends all through 3rd grade up until probably 8th or 9th grade because I was from Baltimore. Parents in an elementary school were literally telling their 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade children, do not associate with her. Do not. She's from a bad city and she is a bad influence. That's how my first day of school went. October 28th, I think it was the 28th, 1995. When I was in high school, just as I was really starting to learn how to be social, notice how I worded that, I was a recluse. I was taught you were to be seen, not heard, preferably not seen, in the 90s, by my very old school parents. And between that, the bullying at school, and not knowing who to trust, I didn't want to be here anymore. I'll word it that way. The end result of the situation, as bad as it was, at the height of the abuse, and how I tried to cope with it, landed me, thankfully, alive and in therapy. I'm fine, obviously. 20 years later is what Cody and I realized, that for 20 years of my life, writing has been what has saved me. And we're finally getting to the point of this video. I had a therapist in 2002 circa who said, you can't articulate your words to me because your trauma is still too real to you. Here's a pen, here's a paper. I don't care how it comes out. Start writing. I stumbled accidentally that way into writing fanfiction that day. I couldn't talk about it as me, but I knew that there was a character from a show called Sailor Moon named Ray that I could tell the story from the perspective of. Make it 1 degree of separation. You see, if you know the backstory of Ray, you know her dad can be just as abusive to her sometimes, and that is why she lives at the Shinto shrine, to get away from her dad, if you know that backstory. So I started writing Sailor Mars fanfiction that day. I fell in love with her as a character. In her, I saw, not just because of her element being fire, not just because Takeuchi-sama made her an Aries. Ray don't take crap from nobody. Ray is steadfast. She is strong. And you can almost always depend on her. And I really tried to emulate her when I was younger. I also had the hots at the same time for another fire elemental character from a little show called Yorohiden Samurai Troopers. Here in the States we called it Ronin Warriors and really butchered the dub to it. Of all the shows they have yet to properly redub, I have yet to get that one on my list. And if you know that story, you know Reka no Sanandaryo, Ryo of the Wildfire, is Ray's counterpart. He's the Leo version of Ray. It's a lion versus a ram, basically. Still very head fast and headstrong, but his heart, he would wear it on his sleeve. And I started writing a story about a little girl from both of them named Jemiko, who was the perfection in between. I knew nothing about writing, other than it was my strength in school. My 9th grade year, about a year and a half later, after I started writing for the two of them, I accidentally stapled a printout of a fan fiction, crossover fan fiction, mind you, accidentally stapled it to the back of my 9th grade honors English end of unit essay, I think, for Romeo and Juliet. And my English teacher said I couldn't understand why the submission was so thick. And then I realized that what you really needed me to grade wasn't the essay at all. Honey, this is good. Can I read the rest of it? And mind you, I will always be thankful to Miss Morgan for that, because she did. She read the whole thing from beginning to end. I just found out that she's aware I'm publishing. Thank you, Miss Morgan. Thank you. It was so silly that you were basically editing my fan fictions for me because you just love to read them. I didn't think I was going to get this emotional. Or that it was going to take nearly as long as it's taking, my goodness. Of course, I started writing fan fiction right around the time when dial-up, internet, and cable modems were really starting to get affordable. My parents managed to get me a dinosaur of a computer, mind you. In 2002, I had a machine that could barely run Windows 95. That's how outdated the computer I first had was. It only worked with dot matrix printers. It was so old, but it barely connected to dial-up. And it connected to dial-up just enough for me to find role-playing message boards and fanfiction writing communities like fanfiction.net. Where did I go after fanfiction.net? Of course, I don't think I ever posted on Archive of Our Own. Luna Essence, I used to. Ghosts of the Vanguard, and some of you, if any of you are from there from, like, we're talking 10 to 15 years ago, you probably know who Neftiri is, because I wrote fanfiction for her originally. Now, mind you, 99% of what's in Neftiri's story is no longer fanfiction. She's an original character, an OC is what we call them in fanfic land, but Cody kept saying, you have a story there and you're hiding it years later. And I had started writing for Neftiri just in role-playing chat groups and in fan fictions for a couple of different franchises now that I think about it, if I'm being honest. Because I also was tabletop role-playing Vampire the Masquerade, and that's kind of also where she came from. So I just started getting into people into groups as a high schooler who have that very, very, very storyteller mindset. And I managed to stay with that kind of group, and it changed. People came and went for years, all the way up until college. And then I started teaching. Teaching is such a creative endeavor, especially when you're running a classroom. Honestly, I love running my virtual classroom because I do not have to dedicate energy. I am not good at maintaining or putting to good use for decorating a classroom. I can't decorate, is what I'm telling you. My classrooms always look horrible because I'm not a good art student. I cannot give you the beautiful picture, the beautiful scenery, the beautiful room. I need to give you the 1,000 words, right? So I'm very glad that I've been able to reclaim that energy to get back to writing. Am I writing fan fiction anymore? No. What has fan fiction taught me? First of all, it taught me how to cope with my trauma in positive ways. Now, I know there is a big debate out there as to whether or not authors should even choose to write their trauma because the world is so full of it. For me, it was literally the only way I could express it. As you can tell, I'm struggling to talk about this. And it has taken me 20 years, sadly, to be able to articulate that what I went through because my parents also went through childhood traumas and were trying to parent me while dealing with their traumas. And I don't want to be like that. Writing has long been therapeutic for me. Does it burn me out? Does it drain my inspiration and my motivation? Sometimes, yes. And that part has been hard. Not being such an emotionally bound writer has been a journey for me for the last 2 years. And thank you, Sarah, and my fellow Hardies over in the Heart Breathings community. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All of you, for supporting me in the way you have. Thank you to everyone on AuthorTube. I know some of us have had bumps along the way, and I'm very sorry for them. So, to bring this full circle, in the Fireside Author Chat I did with Mama Melissa Power of Power Play Press, I said that there was this Instagram reel I posted within the last week or so that I was so afraid to post, because it's so silly. It's the one where I'm saying I'm channeling Nekozawa Senpai from Oran High School Host Club. Yes, I wrote Oran fanfiction. I'm a Kyoya fangirl. Anywho, glasses characters unite. I felt so silly posting that reel, and I was afraid to. Like, I almost didn't, because all those old triggers of being made fun of by my family, being mocked, being a disappointment, came rushing back. And I finally just looked at Cody and I said, forget about it. Worst comes to worst, if it's a flop, I can delete it. Everything is content, right? I mean, that is a jingle over on reel making things, right? And kind of like today, where I said to myself, you know what? There are some people who live from vans and manage to make content. Sarah Cannon was on the road for like a year and still managed to film and make content. Why can't I do it for one day? Why can't I be a best-selling author in my own mindset? Why can't I be more like Nekozawa-senpai, unafraid of my fears? My name is Jenna O'Malley, former writer of fanfiction, now a published author, ready to take on the world. Hope you'll join me in for the ride. Take care of yourself, lovelies. You're worth it.